Welcome to my nice and easy, simple activity prioritization guide for Altoholics, people who play many characters. Basically, what to do each week and in what order to maximize the gains and hopefully fun for each alt that you play or want to play. While I hope that players with not that many alts will find this guide useful still, I created it mainly for those who have lots and lots of alts, a whole army of characters, and people who genuinely struggle to give all of those some love and not are able to stick to one main character. A very real condition that is familiar to fellow Altoholics, and if none of these, what I just said, resonated with you so far, it probably is safe to assume that the video is not for you. I'm sorry about that, but I have other ones coming your way in a few days, so please stick around. Patch 10.1 is fantastic so far anyway, with many, and some would say too many, things to do. Some broken, like Fyrrak Assaults last week, but that's beside the point because Blizzard surely fixes it this week. There are lots of things to do around subjectively fun activities as well as gearing. And what do we do mainly as Altoholics? We always 100% prioritize easy gearing, typically, as we want to make sure all of our numerous, well, let's call them kids, get their fair share of inexcusably easy to obtain loot. All makes sense? Well, let's go step by step. First of all, as far as the overall process is concerned, no matter how obvious it might be to some, we will start on the alt that you are currently playing, if you play one, or have your attention on as it happens, however short this attention span is. Non-alcoholics will call this, yes, I suppose they would refer it to as their main, but you and I know better, don't we? Then focus on the next alt from the same role as your current main, let's call them. For example, if your current attention is on a character that's a tank, we start with that tank and then we keep going through your tanks first. At least that's my logic. Then, you guessed it, you will keep going through alts down the list of preference if they have individual preference, or of the next role in your preference of the how you play through group and solo content. I'll take you through it. For me, it would be starting with tanks, then it would be ranged DPS with pets, yes, like Demonology Warlock, like Beastmaster Hunter, yep. Then it would be my Evoker, because I do personally like their preservation spec and how it plays. Then melee DPS, that I currently prefer to play. I will not spoil it for you here, as the next video is currently in the works, and subscribe if you're interested to find out what my preferred melee DPS of the moment is. Flavor of the month, let's call it. Then I usually run out of time in the week. It's so unexciting and anticlimactic, but that's reality for you, my friends. What about you? Share your wisdom and logic. Post your order of preference of the alts that you play in the comments, as I'm genuinely curious while we keep going. We will start our journey of each individual alt in Zaralek Cavern by taking the weekly Sniffenseeking quest, Worthy Ally, and then straight up we exit the main hub of Loam to go to kill those two new weekly epic rares, the Jaredin Elders. I don't know if suddenly RNG loves me or if it's just a bug, thanks please, but last week at the very least most of my alts got their 4-1 piece from that rare kill, which is a massive eye level and satisfaction, let's admit it, boost for us with our armies of alts. Like 3 of my alts got something from those elders, which is fantastic, so go start there. Once you have killed them and left the pickup raid to kill them, yeah, queue for LFR straight away because it might take a while. If you are not a tank or healer specifically and the queue is not instant, this logic will apply for Heroic Dungeons too, that we will talk about in a second. Now you will either port out or just fly to Valdraken and take that Heroic weekly quest as an absolute priority for each alt to do for a guaranteed level 415 piece, and the content is very easy, which I cannot say about Mythic Dungeons. You will see in the footage below behind kind of this narrative that I also had something in the Great Vault, which did come from me running a Mythic Dungeon. It was an one-off, a very odd one with a friend of mine, so I'm not saying don't do Mythic Dungeons and stuff like this, but I would like to dedicate a separate video to what I do in Mythic Dungeons, how I prioritize them in 10.1 as opposed to previous content that I covered. So I'm deliberately leaving it out of here, and I don't think that it should be my initial go-to choices. It's just in this particular case I was lucky and I did some content and I had something in the Great Vault. You might not have it. While you are in Valdraken, if it is time walking week, which it is not when I'm recording this video, go check if they have actually raised the weekly quest reward eye level from time walking weekly quest. So if there is a weekly quest, there will be a reward. Take a look at what kind of eye level it promises, because frankly, they absolutely should do it, and I think they absolutely will in further patches. But as of the moment of recording of this video, Heroic Weekly gives 415, and time walking somehow only promises us 402. And yes, I did have a lucky proc from there where I got an item of 411, which was nice, lucky, but on the advertisement it says 402, which is not good enough for me to invest my time into running 5 dungeons with a pickup group, unless I genuinely run out of things to do. So I kinda don't recommend it yet, but I recommend that you keep an eye on it, because that is what I'm kind of alluding to. You're absolutely doing Heroic and you're keeping an eye on time walking. What are they gonna do with time walking? So, if and when LFR queue has popped for you while you're outside of your Heroic and time walking runs, obviously, yeah, because you can't be in 2 places at the same time, 2 instances at the same time, take the queue, jump into LFR, go through the wings available, as this is where, admittedly, probably the lion's share of our loot is going to come from for our alts, with some luck involved, of course. And by the time you're watching this video, probably more than 1 wing of LFR would be open. At the moment, we still have only 1 wing, so you might choose to take a break in between the wings, especially as a tank or heals with typically shorter queue, so you will be busier than DPS. But in all honesty, I just kind of get tired, more tired of playing DPS than I do from playing tank or even heals, as long as I'm actually trying, obviously, to pump out some DPS rather than face rolling, which I often do as well, inexcusably. So, in other words, I might recommend that you do 1 wing of LFR, then queue for Heroic Dungeon, then do a Heroic Dungeon, then another wing of LFR, you get me, yeah? Now, as a secondary priority, and while you're queued and waiting for your LFR, I would probably just be hanging around the Fyrrak Assault area. Depending on how many people are running in Fyrrak Assault area, your progress towards getting the keys and opening the chest and getting some loot from it will vary. It might take you a little bit longer, it might take you not that long at all, but I do think that that's a pretty good open world area to hang out in, much better than public events. Yes, I will get to public events at the end of this video. But yeah, so if the gear that occasionally drops from Fyrrak Assault, rares and other mobs in the area, if it was tokens and that could be passed on to our alts, that would have been practically a dream, but it is not a dream, unfortunately, my friends. It's reality, but it's still pretty good. Here you might, and I'm saying might, I'm not asking you to do it, you might want to consider a flyby the world boss dragon, one of those old ones. Yes, if your alt is very fresh and green and 395 potential piece of loot for not that much time investment still seems to you like a worthy time investment. Typically, Fyrrak Assault is not that far to fly over to also pop in while you're in the area, so to speak, and kill that dragon. So I can't imagine, once again, Blizzard not revisiting this later and not raising the item level on those bosses, as I do not understand why they haven't done it already, because leaving the loot here at 395 makes this particular content irrelevant in the near future, I would say. So I keep wondering why. So keep an eye on it, just like I suggested for you to keep an eye on the item level of Time Walking Weekly Event dungeon. Yeah, at this point I would do Researchers Under Fire, public weekly event in Zaralek Cavern, and I'm well aware that many other WoW content creators would put this much higher in their list of priorities. They think that this is this central big event and you have to do it each week. Hey, I've done it on a few alts last week, and so far I have not been amazingly impressed for very simple 2 reasons. First, there isn't often enough activity around this public event area unless you literally try to do it during the first day of the week when it reset. Later on, it kind of turns into a dead town. You just buy yourself there. And secondly, reward from the event is dependent on how much you have done to contribute to completion of the event. So if you are not DPSing much, or joined the event very, very late, or something like that along those lines, unless you're really busting your proverbial you know what, you will get crap gear and not much enjoyment either. That is just my humble opinion, which is why I'm not recommending this. The only good thing about this event and a few other Niffen related activities such as Sniffenseeking, which is also a waste of time otherwise, yeah, come at me bro, I think it is a waste of time. Yes, the gear is occasionally dropping from it, but I maybe have not been very lucky. It's not guaranteed personally, and solving underground riddles is just not what WoW is about for me. And yes, I will talk very shortly about me admitting that everyone plays WoW very differently. So maybe I'm missing something there on Sniffenseeking, but I don't recommend it. Just said, I do realize that everyone plays differently, and your gameplay, your time in WoW might be spent completely differently and revolve fully around, say, PvP or, say, crafting. I don't PvP at all, and neither do I prioritize or mention crafting orders in any of my guides. Why? Because, with a very few exceptions, PvP is typically mouth-breathing and stressful, and crafting orders typically cost a lot of gold. Last time I've checked anyway, please correct me if this assumption is out of date for any reason. And I work enough IRL to try and have enough gold also in the game to pay crafters. So I obtain gear only organically through PvE. I don't craft and I don't compete in button mashing with mouse breathers. I simply don't. But you totally might, I don't judge. So I hope you have enjoyed this little Altoholics Anonymous guide. Welcome to our little club if you're new here. Give the video a like before you leave if you liked it, and subscribe for more videos from me. If you haven't already, I release at least one per week these days. I thank you very much for watching, and I will speak with you next time.